I'm Ron Donaire, CEO of Intuizi, and I have with me a guest today. He's a serial entrepreneur with a focus on AI, ML, and local marketing. The founder and CEO of Local Data Exchange, a company that drives value for organizations through the local e-commerce and local commerce ecosystems with providing marketing attribution, full lifecycle business, and automation through AI. Gideon Rubin, welcome to the Data Dive-In.
Hey, Ron. Here. I'm glad to be talking to you today.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have cooking at Local Data Exchange in 2023?
Yeah, well, so we've been around for some time now, over 5 years, which in the startup world is a lot. And we focus entirely on local media and local marketing companies. And this year we've been focused a lot more on bringing more into the fold. In the past, we hadn't really done much marketing for ourselves. We were mostly focused on our customers, to be honest. This was through referrals. And so this year we're kind of opening up, and we're actually getting a lot more public with what we're working on and who we're working with. So it's great to be here today to talk more about what we do.
Awesome. So can you share an example of how you're leveraging data to make decisions in the local marketing solution space?
Yeah, so we essentially act as a systems integrator or a partner to our customers. And one of the projects that we really like to do that becomes the underpinning of a lot of other sort of solutions is really around marketing attribution as it relates to call tracking numbers. So it's great to have call tracking numbers. It becomes very challenging to automate the creation and distribution and tracking of these numbers. So in other words, once you put them out into the wild, actually understanding what dollar was spent to get that phone to ring on the different media channels, and then keeping all that data together can be very complex for most organizations, especially when you have tens of thousands of customers that you're trying to manage these call tracking numbers for, and each customer might have dozens of numbers. So that project of being able to sort of connect in an automated fashion the call tracking to all the marketing channels, and then being able to run that in an ongoing fashion so that you know where the dollars are being spent and what actions are coming from those dollars, and then pushing that data back through the system, then you can do all sorts of cool things like automate your bidding on Google or Facebook or across all of your channels at once, because you can pull all the data back in from your results. So that call tracking little module is becoming really interesting as just being one building block of that allows you to then automate many other pieces of your marketing efforts.
Well, that sounds super cool. It sounds like it's a very valuable tool for, I guess, local. I guess what you describe it would be like local business aggregators. Is that kind of like who would be using this? Is like people who kind of like sell products to local businesses and kind of helping manage that kind of space?
So a lot of our customers end up being a sort of traditional media company. So think in terms of yellow pages, newspaper, radio, television. And so those companies have become agencies for small businesses. So instead of just offering their yellow page or their newspaper ad, they're also offering Google and Facebook and other channels. So in that world, they work with a lot of third partners and also just work with a lot of technologies. And so that's where harnessing the data to be able to make decisions becomes extremely valuable. And we sort of focus in that piece to take these very large scale, what are traditionally, traditional media companies, and bring to the future of SaaS and automation and that sort of thing. So that's really what we focus on when it comes to local marketing companies. It's oftentimes SaaS companies that same playground of small businesses, the plumber and the local grocery and some of these types of businesses.
Super interesting. So it's like old school becomes new school now, right? Like you're taking what traditionally is like yellow pages, kind of a, for a lack of a better term, kind of like a unsexy old business, but actually kind of allowing them to catapult themselves into the forefront of what, new digital marketing would actually be. So on your site, you have a stat that cites 70% of digital transformation projects end in failure. What is the pitfall, and how does Local Data Exchange help avoid those pitfalls?
There's a lot of pitfalls that people sort of learn about on their way through digital transformation, but ultimately, a lot of it has to do with the data, right? It's about getting access to the data across the organization and being able to make decisions on that data. So oftentimes, where these projects fail is either at the very beginning on the planning stage. Oftentimes they don't have a good execution plan of getting from where they want to be to where they're going, and specifically around the data side, connecting different data solutions, different databases, getting access to them, being able to translate between different technologies and the languages they're using.
Hmm.
So these factors oftentimes, before you even started, can be stoppers in digital transformation. So that's definitely an area that we see all the time. And what it looks like in an organization is, oh, we want to do that project or we want to go online as soon as we finish this, whatever this, this is. Oftentimes, we're redoing our base, we're building a data warehouse, all these different things. And that's where you have to start incrementally, and you have to use technologies that allow you to live in that hybrid environment, so that you're in the cloud a bit and you're on-prem, or you're doing all sorts of things. You have to be able to have that flexibility to be able to keep transitioning. And our big thing with our customers is don't wait. Meaning, it's not about waiting to start the project. It's about waiting till everything's perfect. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. You're never going to have all your databases aligned. The thing about data is it's all about the more you can get and process that data, the more you can understand the results, right?
Hmm.
So the more the better, oftentimes. But you have to be able to process it in some way, which means you have to bring it into reports and get access. And that's where we spend a huge amount of our time, is making that data accessible throughout the organization to the different stakeholders that need it. So it's everything from automating reports to really connecting systems so that they can talk to each other. Because nowadays, a lot of these technologies can be automated or have components that are automated, but they're stuck because humans are somewhere in the process, right? And that's
Hmm.
where we integrate and build certain technologies in between to sort of remove humans from the system as much as makes sense, and allow companies to really scale their businesses. Because when you have tens of thousands of small businesses, you can have a great program for an individual company, but being able to scale that across many companies and make that economically viable so that you can service them and make money becomes a challenge. And that's really where we excel.
Yeah, systems break down when people are involved. That's just the nature and truth of it. All right, so switching gears a little bit, you have extensive experience as an entrepreneur. I've seen you in multiple different organizations. SaaS, right? So SaaS sales and marketing is really hot right now, mostly because the multiples on these kind of businesses are really attractive to investors. If you're talking to a founder of a SaaS-based business, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so as far as what advice I'd give to other SaaS founders, I think a lot of it comes down to figuring out the product market fit as quickly as possible. So figuring out the use cases that are important and valuable, and then working with those individual customers. So it comes down to usage, getting people to use the product as soon as possible to get feedback. And that, to me, is really the key to unlocking the value that you can create with SaaS. Because if you build it and hope they'll come, it becomes really challenging, because you don't know how to improve the product or sort of build it out as you go. But if you get that usage going and you have real value that you're creating for the customers, it becomes a lot more informative in how to build the business and everything. Because the thing about these SaaS companies is, if you really look at them, they don't have that many customers, like the early stage SaaS startups, but they have really good customers, meaning customers that it's a very high value solution to them and it's very important to them, and they're very loyal, especially if they've been
Hmm.
on since early days, usually because it's been kind of customized to their needs. And so
Yep,
that's where you need that to grow, because in order to get the value of SaaS and the recurring revenue, you have to keep the customers on board. So to me,
absolutely.
it's about getting those early first customers and making them happy and working with them to improve the product. That to me is
Yeah.
kind of the trigger that makes the difference between success and failure, because a lot of companies just try to go straight to scale, and they don't have the product right. So
Right. Yeah, no, that's great advice. Great advice. All right, personal question. You're a serial entrepreneur, multiple successful startups. How do you navigate work-life balance? It's easy to get consumed by your work. How do you give the company and your personal life the appropriate mind share of your life?
Yeah, so that's always a challenge. And first of all, I have a wife that's very understanding, that married me when she knew I was an entrepreneur, and had some understanding of what that meant. So she, is very instrumental in allowing us as a family to operate and have work-life balance. She works full time and is still able to kind of help fill in the gaps, because as an entrepreneur, you don't always have kind of all your days planned, or where you're going to be at any given time. So that part challenging. I think another thing too is, if people have seen me interviewed before, they've heard say this. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's in your personal life, in your business life, and sometimes that means saying no, and sometimes that means putting yourself into situations in the business world where you're not comfortable, or even in your personal life where you're not comfortable. Stepping in for the family, and maybe cooking if you don't feel the most confident as the home chef, or doing other things that allow you to offset other times when you're not available for
Mhm.
the. That's a lot of it. To me, I've got certain sort of parts of my life that underpin everything. So, for example, I drop off and pick up the kids at school every day. So that's my sort of way to frame my day, so that when it's time to drop off, that's what I'm doing with my kids, and when it's time to pick up, that's what
Mhm.
I'm doing with my kids, regardless of kind of what's going on at work. Occasionally I have to get coverage or something like that, or I travel, but overall, that's really a big part of the framing. And then trying to schedule my days of the week and things like that, and keep somewhat of a kind of a strict line on those things, not letting
Mhm.
projects go deep into the evening when it's family time, and instead taking a break and hanging out with the family and waiting till they go to bed, and then getting back on the
Mhm.
project.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's around that, and really just having an understanding family, because they've been through it for many years, and there's good and bad of it, but overall it gives us a lot of flexibility. And times like being able to travel with the family is great, because I can still be working remotely and things like that.
Yeah, I've found in my own entrepreneurship that having a routine to start and end your day is exceptionally important, especially from, this whole work from home kind of situation where you're not walking into an office. You don't necessarily always get into a car to go somewhere. That like 10, 15 minutes that you get, or 50 minutes or an hour to drive to and from your workspace, things start to blend together at times, and it kind of seems like one never ending workday. So yeah, having, kid pickup, going for a walk, taking the dog somewhere, and then, ending the day in a very similar fashion, I think is really, really important. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been super informative. If a viewer wanted to get in touch with you or Local Data Exchange, what's the best way of doing so?
Yeah, so through our website, localdataexchange.com. And then you can always either email me, Gideon at localdataexchange.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to chat with anyone. I'm really looking forward to see what Intuizi is up to in the future. And Ron, thanks for having me on the show today. And uh, look forward to learning more about what you guys are working on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gideon.